Okay, make sure you have your pen and paper ready to make notes, and you'll also need a calculator today. Please use the benefit of the video. You can rewind and repeat as you need to, but please make sure you are pausing for the activities when instructed so that you can have a good go at the work. Please make sure you do the activities. The real learning does come from active participation, not from passively listening. Okay, to begin with, we have 4 questions here, so take no more than about 4 minutes to have a go at these. Pause it while you do, and then unpause for the answers. Okay, 200 meters is 0.2 kilometers because there are 1,000 meters to every kilometer. There are 135 minutes in 2.25 hours. Not 225. Remember, there are only 60 minutes in an hour, not 100. To calculate the speed, distance divided by time, so 134 divided by 2 hours. That gives us 67 miles an hour. Unfortunately, this is only the average speed, so actually we still don't know whether or not they were speeding at all. It is possible that they weren't, but it is always also possible that they were. The next one, distance is speed times time. 8 times 1.5, 12 miles. And the final one, 3,600 divided by 10 gives us 360 seconds or 6 minutes. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at compound measures again, but with conversions of units and some more complex concepts. So the title will be Speed, Distance, Time 2, and please make sure to also put the date. Okay, so to begin with, if you take the top question there, convert 1.25 hours to minutes. So sometimes we will be given time in a decimal form, so 1.25 hours. This is pretty straightforward to convert to minutes, okay, but it is not 125. As I said a moment ago, there are 60 minutes in an hour, not 100. So instead we take the 1.25 and times by 60, which gives us 75 minutes. There are 2 more questions there where I want you just to convert those hours into minutes, pause it, and then unpause for the answers. Okay, the answers for these were 225 minutes and 132 minutes, and you should have times by 60 in both cases. We can also do the reverse. So on this question we have 350 minutes and we want it into hours. As it doesn't specify, we're going to stick with decimal hours. Well, if we were timesing before, this time we're going to divide. So 315 divided by 60 is 5.25 hours. So have a go at the other 2 on the screen and then unpause for the answers. The answers to these, 4.5 and 20.6. These are pretty straightforward calculations. Pop them into your calculator for a single mark normally if this is what it's asking you to do. Just remember 60, not 100. Sometimes, however, and much more common in life in reality, is where we have been given time in hours and minutes. So for example, we might be told something's going to take 2 hours and 24 minutes, and we want that as a decimal. Now the 2 hours is quite simple, that's just going to be 2 point something. The problem is working out that something. Do what we did just a moment ago, take the 24 minutes that are left over, and divide it by 60 because it's 24 minutes out of 60, which would have made a whole hour. 24 divided by 60 is 0.4. So for this, what you need to have is your original 2 hours plus your 0.4 hours. So 2 hours and 24 minutes is 2.4 hours. Okay, here are some questions I'd like you to have a go at now. Convert the hours and minutes below into hours as a decimal. It would be worth doing 2 or 3 of these at most. then checking the answers, and if you're getting everything right, move on. If not, have another think about what you're doing with this or review the example. Let's pause it now and have a go. Okay, the answers on the board are here. The common ones that you do need to try and remember is that half an hour is 30 minutes. So 30 minutes is always going to be 0.5, 15 minutes is going to be 0.25, and 45 minutes is going to be 0.75. Those three do come up quite often. Okay, so calculating speed. If we want the speed of an object travelling 480 meters in 24 seconds in meters per second, then we'll use our triangle to get the formula. Speed is distance divided by time, and 480 meters divided by 24 seconds is 20 meters per second. That's all fine. Here's a second question that's similar. Calculate the speed of an object travelling 2 kilometers in 250 seconds in meters per second. Well, again, same formula, and 2 divided by 250 is 0.008 meters per second. And if you look at that for a moment, I'm hoping you'll notice that that doesn't make any sense. It is going to be very difficult in a little over 4 minutes to travel 2 kilometers if you're not even traveling at 1 meter a second. In fact, the problem is our units aren't consistent. So if we look, the question wanted the answer in meters per second, but our information we were given was in kilometers. Our units are inconsistent, which is why we've got a wrong answer. Before we do our calculation, what we need to check is that the answer, in this case meters per second, is consistent with our units. So 2 kilometers can be converted to 2,000 meters. Now we have meters, and we have seconds, and we have meters per second. Everything's consistent, so now we can use our formula again. 2,000 divided by 250 is 8 meters per second. A much more reasonable response. What we need to make sure if we're using this formula is that our units are consistent. So whenever you get a speed, distance, time question, start by checking all of the units. If they're not consistent, convert them before doing any further calculations. It's much easier to do that than it is to convert them after you've started multiplying or dividing. For example, here we have two questions. Find the speed in miles per hour of an object travelling 300 miles in 45 minutes and calculate the speed of an object travelling 2 kilometers in 250 seconds. The second one is the one we just did. Convert everything so it's going to be consistent with the answer thereafter. In this one that we did a minute ago, they wanted meters per second, so we changed everything to meters and seconds. This one wants miles per hour, so we're going to convert everything to miles and minutes and hours. So the minutes is going to become 0.75 hours. And we already did the other one, 2,000 meters. Okay, on screen now are 8 questions. I've highlighted to begin with in bold the units given, and you need to use those to make the calculation it's after. So the first one, for example, wants a train travelling at 24 miles in 30 minutes, calculate its average speed in miles per hour. I've put on the right hand side what units you should be looking for each question, and for the first one, since it wants miles per hour, our unit should be miles and hours. So you're going to have to start by changing the 30 minutes. Give these a go, pause it while you do, and then unpause it for the answers. Okay, here are our answers. If you've got any of those you're not happy with, go back and just double check that you've made your conversions properly. On the screen now, you'll be able to see a table. There are 2 separate journeys. In the first one, calculate how long it took, and the second one, calculate the distance travelled. Use appropriate units for both. Pause it now, and then unpause for the answers. Okay, the answers for this, the first one, to get the time, you should have found that it was 15 minutes or 0.25 hours. Okay, so 20 divided by the speed. The second one gives you time in 1 hour and 12 minutes, which isn't very useful for doing our equation. So the first thing we're going to do for our, in our formula is change the 1 hour 12 minutes into 1.2 hours. Now you can do 50 times 1.2 to get 60 miles. On this question, if I half the distance travelled and double the time taken, what happens to the average speed? For this question, start just by taking a moment to think what would happen in that instance if you travelled half as far, but it took you twice as long. What does that tell you about the speed, just logically? Then try some numbers. Pick some numbers, nice numbers ideally, see if you can come up with an answer. Pause it now, then have a go. Okay, I for this use the number 10 for both the distance and the time, so 10 miles and 10 hours. 10 divided by 10, 1 mile an hour. That's what happened before I made the changes, but now I'm going to half the distance and double the time. So I now have 5 miles and 20 hours. Well, that gives me a speed of 0.25 miles an hour. The speed has been quartered. Now you can try any numbers you like in that and you will get the same result. The speed limit on a road is 50 miles an hour. A car drives 90 miles in 22 minutes. Is it breaking the speed limit? Pause it and then unpause for the answer. Okay, the answer to this one, it was travelling at 51.81 recurring miles an hour. It is ever so slightly above the speed limit. This was miles an hour, so you should have converted the minutes into hours first. And the final question for today. Lee completes a journey in 3 stages. The stage 1 of his journey, he drives at an average speed of 30 kilometers an hour for 45 minutes. How far does he travel? Stage 2, Lee drives at an average speed of 50 kilometers an hour for 2 hours and 48 minutes. Over all 3 stages, Lee drives 200 kilometers in 4 hours. What is his average speed in kilometers an hour in stage 3 of his journey? Take this step by step. I've broken it into 2 parts for you on purpose. So start with just the first box, and then you can unpause it just for that part, and then continue to the next bit. Okay, first part is 22.5 kilometers. Pause it again if you want to wait before you get the next answer. Okay, the final part of this, stage 2 was 140 kilometers. You can use the information shown there to work that out. If stage 1 was 22.5 and stage 2 was 140, you can subtract those from the total 200 to get 37.5 kilometers for stage 3. You can also use the information given to work out it took him 27 minutes. Convert the minutes to hours, and then from there work out that it is 83 1/3 kilometers an hour for his average speed. Okay, that's everything for today. Make sure before that you log off that you submit your work to your teacher.